Pensioner and primary caregiver, two labels not often combined, but it does happen. Imagine you are set to enjoy your retirement and suddenly, through whatever circumstances, you're raising your grandkids. So when grandparents become foster parents, should they be entitled to the same financial help from the state? Or is it just what a family does? Matt Chisholm with some grandparents who, after putting their hands up, now have them out. See what you think.
It's a real tough ask. It's a tough ask.
Did you smack people, eh, honey? You mustn't smack them.
We're looking here at elderly people and vulnerable children.
All right.
These people are New Zealand's unsung heroes.
Too many of New Zealand's children are being hurt, abused, neglected and broken. It's time to stand up and stop this.
Thank you, Lord, for giving us food right where we are. Amen.
For all of you that just want to do something, this is it.
Wait a minute, honey.
At a time when we're all being asked to help our young, our vulnerable, grandparents Teresa and Roger Van Coolenberg are doing more than most.
They are really stepping up to the plate.
For the past 5 years, they've looked after 6 grandchildren, now aged from 6 to 15, including one who is severely autistic. And they're getting considerably less funding to do it than they would if they weren't family.
The general public say, where's the family? Hey, we're here. Please acknowledge us and please give us some support.
There was a time when the kids really needed us at that moment. They needed somebody, so I guess it was just him and I, really.
I really think they're amazing. And when you throw into that mixture a special needs child, oh wow, that is really tough.
We have to be vigilant with him, from the time he wakes up till the time he goes to bed.
It sounds a bit rude and crude, but it's like having a pet chimpanzee in the house sometimes. Because he'll just touch anything, swing on anything, you know. Even with his windows, you can see here, I've just replaced this one. We broke that, and I think it's 4 all told he's broken, you know.
This is far from the retirement 60-year-old Teresa and 69-year-old Roger once dreamed about.
When this all happened, I was really a bit peed off because I thought, you know, I'm retired. I've brought my own kids up and worn out, and now I'm a free person, and suddenly I'm not a free person.
Why are you doing this?
Well, because they're family and, well, they're my immediate whānau, and because I love them, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
But with 6 of them, every day is a struggle, both physically.
I suffered really badly with arthritis.
And financially.
Especially with clothes and shoes, because we found that we've had to get brand new shoes every 3 months.
A lot of these caregivers out there have moved into their pension. So, you know, they're struggling as it is.
Where's Mum in all this?
She's not a well person herself. It's the reason why we took over.
Teresa and Roger wanted to keep their grandchildren together and got custody of them from SIF, knowing children do better in a safe family environment. And they eventually started receiving the unsupported child benefit through WINS. Different ages, different rates. For this family, right now they're getting between $162 and $195 per child per week. That's nearly $56,000 a year. If the kids had stayed on SIF books or had gone on to live in foster homes, they would also be entitled to weekly pocket money of up to $14.20, birthday and Christmas allowances up to nearly $100, and a clothing allowance of more than $1,600 a year each, as well as help with school costs, sports fees and health assessments. That's at least an extra $12,500 a year this family is missing out on.
These children that these wonderful people are raising are being discriminated against.
What's the difference between a grandparent and a foster parent bringing up the kids? We do the same job.
What about that argument, hey, your family, this is what elder family members do for their young?
Well, I think you would be sorting out the Chrissy presents, as the grandparents you normally do, and do those things, but whether you should be responsible for their day-to-day stuff, I mean, really that's what the parents are supposed to be doing, isn't it?
Mum's incapable and the 3 fathers are all missing in action.
I know some people watching this will say, hey, you know, tough, this is your lot. If you'd done a better job of bringing up your own children, you wouldn't be in this situation.
I understand that, yeah.
The mother, who's the same mother of all 6, has been diagnosed as being bipolar. So even with all the nurturing in the world, she's still going to be bipolar, isn't she?
Although these grandparents weren't initially sure about picking up the pieces, nearly 6 years on and with another 12 long years of parenting ahead of them, they'd be reluctant to give the kids back, even though both them and their grandchildren often go without.
And a benefit or an allowance means that grandma may have a little bit of extra money to put some regular, proper food on the table, or send the children on a school trip or a school camp.
Our number one priority is their nurturing to make them good citizens and earn money and have a wealth for themselves without sponging.
These grandparents don't give up easily. We'll soldier on. That's the sort of people we are.
Bye-bye. Bye, darling.
Well, it can be a bit of a conundrum, this one. Joining me to work through the issues, Jeff Lawson. Now, he's the new CEO of Grandparents Raising Grandkids. And in Whangarei, from the conservative think tank, the New Zealand Centre for Political Research, Muriel Newman.
Good evening.
Jeff, is this about money?
No, absolutely not. I mean, obviously, it costs money to raise children, but this is about, from our point of view, providing the same level of support to our grandchildren who are being raised by our grandparents as is received by foster children.
But isn't there a difference between foster parents and grandparents? Isn't there an obligation on the family to do something without necessarily asking for money?
Well, clearly and ideally there is an obligation on grandparents to look after grandchildren if that's the situation they find themselves in. However, many of our grandparents are not in strong financial positions to support 1, 2, 3 grandchildren, up to 8 grandchildren, as the track showed. And so we believe that they are entitled to, and the children deserve, the level of support that we're promoting.
Muriel Newman, look, these are the grandparents are doing the same work as foster parents. Shouldn't they be given the same support from the state?
I think it's important to remember, though, that foster parents are contracted by the government to provide childcare services for children. They're paid to do it. And so that's quite different from families who are stepping up to look after other family members. They're taking responsibility and they're making sacrifices. And Mark, I'd just like to acknowledge the work that that family is doing, and also that the trust is doing, because I first met members of that trust back in the 90s when it was just a dream. And I think they've gone an awfully long way, and they're providing support and help for people who've got nowhere else to turn.
But do you believe that the elements of state support that they're missing out on at the moment, things like the pocket money, the clothing and the Christmas present money, that they would get if they were foster parents, should they be entitled to that as well?
No, because it is quite a separate thing. And I think as a government, governments have got to be very careful about starting new entitlement programs. I mean, you know, New Zealand's got a history of entitlement programs that actually tend to go off the rails. You look at something like the domestic purposes benefit. It was only ever to support 20,000 families, and I think at the peak it had 120,000. You look at working for families, it was never meant to support families who earn over $100,000 with top-ups.
Jeff,
so I think that a line in the sand has to be drawn.
Well, Muriel's comments, I think, are frankly a red herring. We're talking about children who we believe should receive the same level of entitlement as the law allows foster children to receive. Why should our children be discriminated against just because the family has chosen to raise these grandchildren rather than the state, if you will?
The case we saw tonight, Teresa and Roger, I mean, that's extreme, as they had 6 kids. On average, the people involved with your group, how many grandkids would they be bringing up?
We've got 5,000 members, and then those 5,000 members are raising 10,000 grandchildren.
The amount of money then that we're talking about, if there's a couple of kids involved, isn't big, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. And in fact, it works out at about $1,000 a year.
Is it worth fighting for?
No, absolutely, because bear in mind that the grandparent, who's often a single grandparent, it will be on the benefit, and that benefit's worth $15,000 a year, as an example. And we're talking, I can assure you that an extra $1,000 or $2,000 for 2 children is significant for them.
Muriel Newman, isn't it isn't it very much like the start of like the DPB? What we're interested in here is the welfare of the kids, and if they are better off with family, with their grandparents, we should be helping to keep them in a safe and nurtured environment.
Oh, look, exactly. I mean, it's wonderful that grandparents do step up when the children or grandchildren are in need. But the point is that you do have to draw a line. And I think, to be honest, that the Trust has done a wonderful job for grandparents to allow them to have the unsupported child allowance, because for a while there they were getting no state support at all. And, you know, from what the story said, that family gets $56,000 a year in support from the state to raise those children. And you've just got to go back to that fundamental baseline, though, that foster parents are contracted to provide a service to the state. These families are stepping up and sacrificing for their grandkids.
To be honest, I'm not sure that it makes any difference whatsoever. Fundamentally, we've got people who are prepared to raise grandchildren. Many of our members consider that the best place for those children to be raised in is in the family, and not a stranger foster family, but the family. And we've got grandparents simply making a choice, and our children should not be discriminated against on that basis.
Look, Jeff Lawson, Muriel Newman, we appreciate your contribution to the debate tonight, but look, don't forget, what do you make of it? You can have your say as well. Go to our webpage or email us at closeup@tvnz.co.nz, and of course, we're on Facebook.